Hello, everybody. It is Oz Property Investors on your Wednesday night, your favourite time of the week. We bring the big names, have the big fun. How you going, Kent? How you feeling?
I'm really well, guys. We're not in lockdown up here either.
Oh, geez,
really?
rub it in.
Oh. Not yet.
Rub it in. Yeah. That's it's Queensland now as well. Apparently, well, apparently it is Queensland. I shouldn't say apparently about these things. I do know these things, people. But no, that's good to hear, Ken. And you've been had a top day and everything's coming along. You've been spending seniors data, and I've been loving your work so far.
Yeah, it's been a busy few weeks. I've released some mapping software, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the findings from it. But I guess the big thing that I'm finding is that as you try something different with a data visualization or whatever, you learn something entirely new, and your perspective changes on data. So even though I'm getting old, I'm not too old to keep learning.
There you go. That's what I love to hear. Just always look, because somebody said to me in a comment, they said, "Oh, there was a new podcast that they were putting out," and they said, "Oh, like it's you would know it all, Jeff." And I said, "No, I definitely don't. I'm far from it. Like I want to always keep learning. Like even if it's a small thing, there's something I usually pick up." So, Joe, how are you going anyway?
I'm good, mate. I'm very good. I'm very excited to have Kent the Nerd on. I even brought my fun shirt. This is my fun threads. That's what it's all about.
I got two jumpers and something else. I got my Peru shirt on. So my my party Peru shirt all the way from.
This is going to be a massive one. What was awesome is Kent gave us a little shout out on the Property Nerds. So you would have actually heard Kent already talking about us. He's been a big part of this group for a long time, talking nothing but data. And we haven't had a live with you yet, mate. So I'm super pumped to get you on here and get the lowdown of what it all means.
I had some fun with you guys a few weeks back with the karaoke bit. I've got to say that was a bit of a hoot. So people throwing up a suburb and doing an instant deep dive into it. That was fun.
It's coming back.
Well.
There's an encore next Thursday night. What is next Thursday? That is I think it's the 5th, the 12th of August, I believe. It could be the 13th. Yeah. So it's Friday the 13th next Friday. Jeez, the day before Friday the 13th. Could be fun. So that's
we're going to do some karaoke on that day. We're going to do some throw your stuff out. Are we going to do some karaoke tonight? If we've got time, pop some of your suburbs in the comments.
I've got my I don't know if you can see the big screen there. You probably can't see. See that big screen with a map on it? It's ready.
He's ready to go.
I'll switch it around. Look, guys. Oh, look at that. It's the big screen.
It's not about the size of the screen, Ken. It's about how you use it, man.
It is absolutely. But I've got that big, rather large screen there, not for any other reason that I've got really crap eyes.
Awesome. So my day was fantastic, Joe. It was through the second day. I'm not waiting until you ask me because I'm like, he's not going to ask me. I'm just going to. I mean, maybe he might have, but nobody really cares except me how my day was. But it was pretty good, and I want to see heaps of comments. I want to see heaps of questions. We'll get to them eventually, I'm sure. We'll try and keep this under 4 hours for Kent because we'll keep it under a couple of hours time. But I'm excited. So before we get into it, though, shall we life hack? Do you want to go first, Kent? I think I know your life hack, but share it with us.
I think my biggest life hack in the modern day era, where we're wearing board shorts or shorts being optional, collared shirt, is this thing. So look at it. It's quite legal. And it's
very nifty.
It's like a lifesaver.
Look at that. Woo. And I can.
Oh, I can't hear him. We've lost
now
him.
You can hear him.
Oh, he's back. Oh.
You can.
I think that would be dangerous for me.
All right. And that's my best thing in the world.
It's like a touch lamp.
That's really cool. Like I've never seen one of those. Like maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just behind the times. But
yeah. I like that. That is a good life hack. That is a good for those that can't mute themselves. For those that need to mute themselves more often.
I want one. I want one for my wife.
Oh God.
Oh no. I thought I hope she's watching the show. So she's like, about that extra. About that extra day.
What's your life hack, Jeff?
So I'm gonna feel a little bit embarrassed and antiquated by saying this is my life hack. But this week I ran into some issues the other day in the grocery store, and because I left my wallet at home, so I didn't have any way to pay. So I was like, how the heck am I going to have to put all the stuff back on the shelves or just leave it somewhere? And how am I going to do this? So I thought, crap, okay, how do I solve this problem? So I solved it by checked out my phone. I'm like, PayPal, not PayPal, PayPass or whatever, PaySwipe or whatever. So I'm like, set it up in literally 2 minutes, and I'm like, sweet, to swipe the phone, easy, happy days. You don't even need your wallet. Just leave it at home. You got your phone these days. Why have I not been doing this for the last? Some of these people have been telling me to do it for years, and I finally it took leaving my wallet at home, not being able to pay for something, to set up the PayWave or PayPass or whatever it's called. How good is it? Get on the virtual pay.
Get on it. Yeah, I'm with you. I've had it for years, and I love it. I thought I'd be like, I did resist for a little bit because I thought I'd just keep spending more money, because that's like what credit cards do, right? If you have a credit card, you spend like 10% more than normal. So I was like, well, I better not fall for this trick. They get people with credit cards, but no, it's so good. You just tap the thing, you just press the button. Oh, and now I can pay. Done.
Happy days.
Easy. Happy days. I've got a life hack. I've got actually a show and tell life hack, which is actually really, really good. If you a greenie, you're not going to like this one.
Please.
So this is my shower head. Now, my shower head is incredibly low powered. Like, it'll just sprinkle like this. And I was like, why does this happen? Like, the water flow throughout the rest of the house is absolutely sensational. So I was like, it doesn't make sense why this pipe. So I unscrewed it and I turned the pipe and it went, psh. I'm like, there has to be something in here. So it turns out, in all the modern day, if you've got a rubbish shower and it's really there's not enough pressure, they deliberately put a water-saving washer inside the thread, which is restricting the water flow. So if you've got, I removed mine entirely, so now it's just free flowing. Yes, you are going to use more water. That is guaranteed, but it is absolutely worth it. Just have a shorter shower. But the dribble, no more dribble. There's one, and now this is where it got me. There's one at this end, and there's the one at the end that plugs into the wall as well. So they restrict it twice. So remove those, and you're going to have a sensational shower all over again. So that is my life hack. That is a real life hack.
I think NBN did that to me.
They put some caps on your internet, and it goes over 60 kilobytes per second. I think that's why it's
bloody washers off there. That's what you need to do. It's a rubber washer. You can remove it, or you can drill out the hole, or just cut it out. Get rid of it.
Sounds dangerous, Joe. I like it. I like dangerous shit. Well done.
Okay, what are we doing? Are we doing an ad? We've got an advertisement for our fine sponsor. Steve, good. It's the one I've got up. Let me share my screen. How do I do that? Fabulous.
Yeah. I think that's the way we do it.
Let's talk about commercial property investing. It's one of those areas that confuses many people, probably because of the risks involved, but it's also one of the few asset classes that can give you a very positive cash flow from day one. With commercial property, you get some massive net yields of 6 to 10%. Now, that's not gross, that's net, which means it's cash in your pocket. This is what makes them so amazing. Your property can actually pay itself off within 10 years, grow in value, and without having you to chip in any cash at all. Now, with big rewards comes some big risk, which is why you should de-risk your investment as much as possible. The way you do this is with expert due diligence. This is why we highly recommend hiring professionals to help you along in your investing journey. Steve Polisi of Polisi Property is one such expert. He is one of Australia's top commercial property buyer's agent. With his own multi-million-dollar property portfolio of a mix of commercial and residential, Steve has over 1,200 property transactions under his belt. He's the guy you want in your corner, crunching the numbers, finding the best properties in the best location, along with the ways to avoid the dud properties. Steve has even been the one to write the book on commercial property investing in Australia, and it's a bestseller. He's been generous enough to give us a massive discount to our audience of 50% with the code AUS Prop. Click the link below, get a copy today, and start your commercial property investing journey.
Well done, Joe. That was probably the most seamless one we ever got. So I need to take you off the big screen. There we go. That's not the screen we want. Here's the screen we want. We have
easy.
You have to remove. Yeah.
Oh, I got to stop. There we go. Technology. How good is that?
Joe, stop it. Stop. Well done. Very, very seamless. So let's get on to the man of the hour, though. I want to introduce. I was very impressed. I was looking at your bio just before, and I was like, of course, Kent would have this kind of bio on his page. So I want to read it out. I want to. You've been an independent property data analyst for over 30 years. I almost had to read that 5 times. I was like, 30 years? No way. That's but with companies such as JL, CoreLogic, Genworth, and you've also you've been over in Canada, I believe it was, around the world. You've done this. You've pioneered it around the globe, I would say. You designed the original price estimation tool, and then sort of headed up banking platforms at RP Data, CoreLogic. You are the OG of data in probably at least Australia and maybe even the world. So the thing I loved about your contact page as well is you said, for free members, I only offer the online help pages. Email or phone support is not available. So you're very pragmatic. I was just like, it's very Kent of you. I was impressed with that kind of last line as well. Is there anything I missed about you?
I got flooded. I'm getting flooded by these people that just come in saying, "Hey, I want to have a chat." It's like, I'd love to talk to you, but I don't have any time left. But anyway, I'd say the most exciting thing that I ever did was up in China. I had off and on. I had about an 18-month stint in China, working with CoreLogic, but looking to set up a partnership up there. And
whereabouts in China? Beijing,
it started out, half of it was in Harbin, up where they have the ice festival. So have you ever heard of that ice world where you've got carvings out of, big castles made out of ice, and it's quite spectacular. I've seen it, yeah. Oh, it's amazing. So I've been to that quite a few times, and there was one particular time I left China. It was minus 24, and I landed back in Sydney, and it was plus 38. That was not a good transition. But probably the China bit was exciting. The largest bank in the world, ICBC. If you look at online, what's the largest bank? It's the biggest bank in the world. I went in and helped them train all their staff on building their own automated valuation model. And so effectively they adopted that and then applied my AVM design for everything that they were doing, and went back and I had these sessions with them in auditoriums with all their risk team. And it was like 200 people. It was just mind blowing. And
when Zhao Zhao comes calling you've done something right, or maybe something wrong. Hopefully,
but it was fascinating because the questions they hit me with were hard. They were good. They were smart. Like, there's a lot of smart cookies in China. You can't say China properly now after Donald Trump either. You've got to say China.
Oh, geez. I never thought we'd talk about Trumpy on. Actually, I think we have talked about Trump before, but it was interesting to see. There was some news from New York, the governor today, but we won't talk about what he did, but or what he was accused of. I don't know whether he's actually done it, but it's just interesting. America's in a bit of interesting times, but that's right. I'd love to be fly on the wall with that kind of conversation where you're getting drilled with the questions, because how did you handle that? We'll get on. Yeah,
it was fascinating, and so many of the young ones there do speak English. So anyone under 30 is bilingual. There's quite amazing young people. So I don't like the rift that's going on at the moment, because we're missing out on some good stuff, and we're missing out on making some good friends. So anyway, it's a different topic, but that was probably the single most important, exciting thing. Probably the other piece was Price Finder. When we designed the Price Finder tool, which I feel they've neglected in the last 15 years, but we built that and we designed it in such a way that you could remove and replace properties or comparables because some dud ones were flowing through. And then we said, okay, there was a a variance in the result. How could we account for that variance? And we put sliders in. I put a sliders in, and I didn't anticipate it to become gamified. So people got hooked on it and loved it. And the early forums like Summersoft and whatever, people were talking about it, and the investors loved it because they could find a house and then do a what-if analysis instantly. So what if I make a duplex, or what if I make 4 or 5 townhomes and make them new, and you could select your comps and do it dynamically. And I think they've neglected all of that stuff. It's it's just been pushed to the background. But I remember those days, and then it ran hot, and we had a really good partnership back in the days with the Real Estate Investor, the original guy that owned that. So it was a really exciting time, and to start a company young and then take on the big guy. We took on RP Data. That was exciting. So it's been. I've had some fun. I've had some fun times.
How do you see the future of property technology going? Like, there's a lot of stuff coming out at the moment. Like, where is that going to go? I'm even starting to see you're commoditizing data now. You're giving all your data away, which is what we're going to be talking about in this session. But that then gives every single person the tools that they need to go out there and buy a property. So,
I think there's some gaps still, because you've got to improve the user experience. I'll pick on what I'm doing at the moment. Is it needs to be either simplified, or the user experience has got to improve, or the training's got to improve for it to be truly for everybody. So at the moment, what I've got out there is what I want to be the most powerful tool possibly, and make it free. So on the Gartner Magic Quadrant, I'm up there. I want the top quadrant with lots of white space around me. That's what I want. I want a purple cow. I think the biggest challenge I've got though is, how do I make this improve the usability? How do I improve the training and support and make people experts? Because I'd say my number one motivator was and remains dealing with the crap that they're being told. And these listicles of top growth suburbs, it's nuts, because effectively just looking at medians at a suburb, which I hate, and then they're ranking them, which is just effectively ranking the 10 biggest mistakes possible.
10 biggest mistakes. There it is.
Very quite controversial. I like it.
Well, you take a suburb with very, very few sales, and then suddenly 2 expensive properties sell, and it's the highest ranking growth suburb in the country for a week. It's nutty.
Yeah, it is crazy,
and we're all embracing the madness.
Yeah, well, it's all that we have. It's the only data that we have. So let's have a bit of a go through. So you're a massive data nerd. You're actually the property data nerd, along with Arjun Paliwal, who is a sensational nerd as well. So you guys run both the property nerds, and that's awesome platform, awesome reports.
Yeah, we've got the reports there. We just released a whole stack of new reports yesterday. So there's some new reports there. We've got the website. We've got free data hub. So there's lots of free stuff there as well. And we back that up with the podcast. So it's very much we're very focused on wanting to be nerdy and appeal to people who like nerdy people about talking about data. And we're getting fan mail. Would you believe? Like, it's so, yes, it's a niche, right? We get it, but 5,000 people tuning in who are loving it. So that's pretty cool.
That's sensational. Yeah. Well, I get it, because you guys are giving out real content that makes sense. And that's what I really enjoy about what you guys put out. It's like, finally, a way that isn't median house price, $1 million property sells, and then a 500,000. So the median house price, 750. Doesn't make any sense. But what you guys are talking about. So that's what I want to talk about.
You're talking about the mean there, Joe. That's the mean, the average of 2.
Oh, yeah.
The median would be, if you had 2 for $1 million and 1 for 500. The median would then be $1 million. Yeah.
Yep. Good.
Sorry.
Okay. There you go. Well, now we've gotten one data metric out the way. We've sorted that out. But that was one of the things that I want to talk about. So you're talking about your platform, which is called Suburb Trends, which I'm sure we'll get up on the screen at some stage and go through some of the awesome stuff. But can we just go over some of the more basic, like not basic, but the foundation. So one of the things that I think is foundational is the inventory. That is really the basis of how you get, like how you measure a lot of your data based on inventory. So what are inventory levels?
Yeah, so inventory measures, it's a ratio of sales and listings. So effectively, my approach to this is I take the average amount of listings that you will see in a location. That location could be a suburb, but it could be a broader area. So let's just pick on the suburb for now. If I've got 50 properties for sale on average in that suburb and 10 sell on average per month, 50 divided by 10 equals 5 months of inventory. So there's a couple of key metrics that I'm interested in here. How many months of inventory? Higher months is a weaker market, and lower months is a stronger market in terms of demand versus supply. So anything below 3 months of inventory, I would classify as a strong seller's market. And then anything above 9 months, I would consider a strong buyer's market, with shades of grey in between. One of the key metrics and most important metrics when it comes to inventory and a lot of stuff is the delta through time, the trend.
Yeah.
Because you could have a suburb that's currently and has been sitting at 9 or 10 months of inventory, but it's been trending down, and they are enjoying price growth right now. If you only looked at where it was now and you didn't look at the trend, you would make the assumption prices would be going down. So the trend is every bit as equal as the now.
What sort of I'm gonna probably ask the question that Joe was going to ask. How long of a trend do you look over? Are you wanting to see at least 3 months? Are you looking 6 months? What would be reliable trends?
Yeah, I usually let the data speak for itself. So I spit it into models and machine learning, and then it spits out at me what the most important variables are and ranks them in order. And I made some notes on this to now the person who asked for what data to look at, and Laith. So I've got Denise who said what data to look at, and Laith. If Laith's online, thank you, Laith. And typically what we look at is what are the key predictors, and certainly what I'm finding in terms of the time, the most common lag that's used in the model is probably -2, -3, -4 months. So you're feeding data in that's all lagged in your time series, and what they call it time series data, which is what it is now and what it was a month ago and what it was blah, blah, blah back a couple of years. So it's the same data, but snapshots in -month intervals. And then you got
what's a leading indicator and what's a lag indicator? What's the difference between the two?
Well, typically, when it probably slightly different terminology and applications here. So I treat inventory is what I call a lead indicator, because it's going to tell me where prices are likely to go in 3 to 4 months.
Yep.
So if I look at what's happening in inventory, if there's a big shift, it could be a 1 or 2 months change in inventory. That type of shift will usually lead to something happening significant in prices within 3 to 4 months. So that's the period. But when I talk about lag data going into these models, it's really just a snapshot of data, what it was today, what it was last month, what it was the month before, blah, 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 back a couple of years. So to answer your question earlier on, what's the typical stuff that I use? When I plug it into the models, most of my stuff fades away after about 15 months. But I do put in longer data sets in there. I put in up to 10 years. But most of the heavy lifting's done in the stuff that's between 4 and 15 months.
So the way I kind of think about this, and I've only just thought about this now, so it probably won't make too much sense, but like you see the smiling dog, right? That's the inventory levels, but you're not going to see him starting to wag his tail for a little while, and that's going to be what you want. You want the dog wagging his tail. If he's not a happy dog, he's not going to be wagging his tail, but if he starts to smile, you're eventually going to see his tail wag, and that's what you want. You want a happy, smiling.
Doesn't the tail wag first, or does it smile first? I thought the tail wag
smiles first. But there's the lead indicator there is that the inventory levels from an SA3 level, which we're going to have to talk about soon, is the core function, right? We see those levels starting to. Do we want to see them dropping, or do we want to see the inventories rising?
No, we want if we want to see prices come down. Sorry, if we want to see prices go up.
Yeah,
we want to see inventory levels come down. What we've got in Australia at the moment is a very, very unique situation where across the board, everywhere is, it's almost a unilateral low levels of inventory now. So we've gotten to a point where everything looks good. Everything looks below 3 months almost everywhere. And the problem we've got now, this throws up a whole new challenge because it was easy a year ago. When we were saying you had a lot of markets that were 6 and 7 and 5 and whatever. But now you look across the board, they're all 2s and 3s and 1s. And how do you pick out the winners? So you've now got to start to be a little bit more discerning because that variable alone is not enough. Because they've all been pushed into such low inventory levels because listings have just plummeted. Year on year on year. There's just not the listings volumes there. So, for a lot of the top real estate agents would be doing just fine. But, the other 80% would be doing it tough because volumes are down so low.
So what does that mean? If there's low listing volumes, what does that mean? People just aren't selling their houses. They're like, you know what, I'm going to stick it out. And then what does that mean for investors?
Yeah, frozen with fear. Look, you can't blame COVID for this because this trend started before COVID. So, we've got year on year on year. It's almost like every year, another 10% reduction in listings volume. So I think the biggest challenge is understanding why it's happening. Anecdotally, the feedback is when you read, posts online and, user groups and listen to what the agents are saying, it's people don't know where to buy or want to find the next property, the dream property before they sell. So it's that conundrum, the prisoners.
What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is it the place you dream home, or do you sell your own home? Like if you can't.
And I think what's happening in a lot of people who did the exodus, which is continuing, right? The Melbourne Sydney exodus, which is a real thing. They did sell and they exited to rent. A lot of them exited to rent. And you can see the implications of that, the rental crisis that exists across all regions across the country.
I'm interested. I'll take it a little bit off cue because what do you this may not be something, I don't know if I think you are an economist. You have multiple degrees, like a whole bunch of different degrees, but maybe
no, I just did commerce and then picked the eyes of the units that helped me build an AVM and understand some stuff for this. That's all I did. So I just cherry picked. I'll do some ops research stuff and some stats, a whole stack of stats units. So that was my focus.
What are your thoughts? And this, we're not going to hold you to this, but what's your anecdotal? What do you think will happen once we kind of get to 70 to 80 to 90% vaccinated and we start to feel more comfortable opening the borders? Do you think that narrative of moving away from cities will change, or moving away from cities?
We don't need to make stuff up. We can look at what's happening already overseas, where this has already happened. So there's some great articles happening right now of rents now surging in the cities in the US. So the US got its act together with vaccinations, and the young ones are flooding back into the cities because young ones like to do what they do with other young people, if you know what I'm saying. They don't want to stay in the bush with their parents, right? So they want to party. So I think what's going to happen is they'll flood back into the cities. It's going to be rather interesting, but there is high vacancy rates still in the CBD, so there'll be some affordable rents for the short term, and then when enough of them flood back in, we'll start to see a turnaround in those inner city markets. But at the moment, they're suffering.
Yeah, well, because this is the kind of the thought process that I was having around this exodus of the city into the regions that's still going on. But what what happens when everyone floods back, right? We've got this sensational value uplift. It's kind of like I don't want to say it's like a mining town, but like, is it going to be just a big inhale, a big exhale, and then we inhale back in? How does it?
I think what's happened is there's this new industry called work from home. We just filled in the census thing tonight, and if it was captured as are you a work from home, as an industry, it'd be the biggest growth industry we've ever seen. So I think what's happened here is, we did this. I exited Sydney for Newcastle with my family 15 years ago for all the same reasons why people want to get out now. It's just that I was the weirdo then. Now it's the norm. I'm still a weirdo. But, I think the thing is, though, that there's a significant industry of people working from home. And that's going to change housing markets in Australia and globally forever. There's a terrific documentary, a French documentary on what's happened in Paris with families exiting these crappy little units in Paris and getting out.
Really? What's it called?
I posted it on LinkedIn. So if you look in my LinkedIn feed going back 6 months ago, and they interviewed all these families, and it's like, holy crap, they're saying the same thing as we've been saying, and this is a global phenomenon. But I think for me, and this is a personal view, is that we've been living in this world ruled by analog boomers, and now Zoom is the norm. And if they get on board or they have to retire and let a Gen X or Gen Z or whatever take over the CEO role.
Millennials, Kent. Go the millennials.
See, I'll go for the young ones. It's like in NRL. I'd love it when you bring on this young person who's 18 or 19 and they just carve it up on their first game or two. It's like more of that.
Yeah. I love a bit of footy talk. Let's not talk too much about the footy because the Bulldogs might.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, cool. So one of the things that I was super pumped to get you on for was I guess I had a big post about it, a big pump up and a big promise was that I always hear like how great a suburb is, right? We all know that Geelong is awesome. Like it's done really well over the past 2 years. And Bendigo is doing incredibly well. And these places are doing really well. And everyone tells us, you know what? These places are doing really, really well. And I don't really care about that because I didn't buy there. I mean, I bought in Geelong, so that's good. But I didn't buy in Bendigo, and I don't care. What I want to know are what are the things that I should be tracking, and what are the metrics that really, really matter that I can have my eye on, and then I'll know when to pull the trigger. And that's what I like about this SA3 thing. That we're going to kind of cover off in here. But we do have some data that you're going to cover off with, and we're going to look at it from a good area where it was before it started to boom, and then check in on the data every kind of quarter or so to see, okay, this is where it was looking here. This is getting better. Okay, this is where you should buy. Okay, and then now, well, probably the places you're going to show us probably haven't gone down yet, but it's probably points to where you would say, you know what, I'd probably get out now. I probably wouldn't go there.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't buy it rather than get out. I mean, because
sorry, I wouldn't not get out. Yeah, exactly. That's a very good point, Jeff. Yeah.
So there's 5 green shoot suburbs that we've focused on as a case study for today, just to really highlight what my methodology would be if you were to try and identify green shoots.
You want to bring it up, Joe? Or can we bring it up?
I can.
Get it up, mate. Get it up.
I will.
So interesting way of putting it. Yeah, no, and I'm very excited to see this because it's often the thing that people aren't willing to shoot. Here we go. Jeez, I love that. I love that poster as well. Thanks.
What a poster. What a beautiful poster. Look at you, mate. Tries all day.
Hey, look at that.
We couldn't put a Roosters jersey on you, unfortunately.
That photo there is like I think that I took that back in the price finder, so it was a professional photo, and I just was just too lazy to change it. So if I was on the internet dating scene, I'd be one of those people that have got a photo that's like 20 years old.
20 years old.
Hey, you're a fine wine, Kent. Better age, my friend.
So, Kent, what is a green shoot?
What we're looking for here in a green shoot is something, a market that's starting to show indications that it's going to grow in terms of price. And what we're trying to do here is identify leading indicators that are not your rear view mirror median growth crap that we've been reading for the last 20 years in magazines. These are leading indicators and things that have changed, trigger points, changes in the data that have subsequently led to, and we've already seen or are seeing some price increases that actually are going to continue on. So we have 5 suburbs that show that, but really what we want to do is talk about a couple of key phases, or 4 key phases, things that happen. The first is what's happened at a wider market level. So we're talking about a statistical area 3. For those who don't really know, now I think it was Lath who asked about LGAs, and we highlighted or commented that I like to use SA3s over and above LGAs. The reason being is a lot of LGAs do align to a statistical area 3, but you've got places like Brisbane and you've got places like the Gold Coast, which are huge city level LGAs, and they kind of ruined everything. Whereas the Australian Bureau of Statistics carved up the country into 350 odd areas called statistical area 3. So I've got a little bird has whispered in my ear that one of the big data companies is about to follow suit with my SA3 strategy as well. How about that? So a big shout out to one of those big data companies.
Following a
So what I do is I start with the statistical area 3. The reason being is I'm measuring inventory at this level. It means I'm not jumping at shadows looking specifically and only at the suburbs. So starting at the region, the analogy I like to use, it's a bit of a tide. You may find a suburb that can swim against the tide, but generally the market moves and you'll see a slight movement in the SA3. It's not going to be noisy because it's statistically significant. It's got a larger sample size. So not going to have that erratic jumping at shadows problem of just focusing on suburbs. Looking at the SA3, is the SA3 improving? Are its market conditions starting to slightly move in the right direction? And that's the trigger. That's the first point. Then from there, we move into phase 2. And pardon the background, the dogs are out the front having a bit of a bark, but maybe you don't hear it as bad as I do. The suburb level inventory, the next phase is you'll see that the suburb does in fact trend down, but because you can see it at the higher level, at the market level, it's not some erratic noise thing. So now we look at the suburb and say, yes, the suburb inventory levels are starting to trend down. So that's terrific. You probably wouldn't want to jump immediately after 1 month, but by and large, you'll see it that if the SA3 is moving down and it's flattened or it's starting to trend down, and you can see a similar pattern in the suburb, it's looking pretty good. And then phase 3, have a quick look at the days on market. Now, days on market does tend to be erratic, especially in the suburbs that have got fewer sales. So if you're in a suburb with only a handful of sales per month, days on market's going to misbehave. But by and large, if it supports the evidence and you can see that start to come down, again, that does weigh up and support that it's going to start to show some green shoots. And then the phase 4 is where you'll see an increase in asking prices. People start listing, demand starts to go up. The first thing that starts to happen after that, but it's typically 3 to 4 months, you'll see this significant change. After you see the step changes in inventory levels, you'll see it flow on to asking prices within 3 to 4 months. So that's what we'll explain in a few case studies today.
So that's how easy it is, right? This is why I wanted. This is why I wanted to get you on.
Simple, but not easy.
Simple, but not easy, right? So what you're saying here is you have seen from a large data set that when the statistical area 3, which is like a local government area, which is like an LGA, but a little bit different as you just covered off, starts to trend down within 3 to 4 months, that curve starts to go down. That is because the suburb inventory levels is starting to go down, and that's trending, which is pushing these down inventory wise, which means that buyers are trying to buy all these properties, but there's not enough supply. So they're like, you know what, I'll spend an extra 5K. I'll spend an extra 5K next month, another 5K, another 10K, another 20K. And then the prices start to tick up. Then you look at the suburb level, and that starts to get a nice little bit of pressure in there. And then you start to kind of drill down into what those suburbs look like. And then just to make sure that it's not then you go into the days on market to make sure that the days that the properties are listing on the market are actually coming off quicker than they are usually. And that is then, after that, 3 to 4 months, those prices will increase. So 3 to 4 months is all you need to be able to read the tea leaves, and it's going to give you the result that you want. Now, are there situations where this is trending down, this is trending down, this is trending down, and it's a very poor investment? What are some of the gotchas? How do I avoid looking at this stuff and getting gotcha'd?
I think there are some obvious gotchas that I could probably easily explain. Would be an area that suddenly gets an influx of supply, so that, you know, and that's where the pipeline building approvals come in to play. So I think a great example at the moment. Now, am I echoing, or is it okay?
No, you can.
That's fine. Okay. All good.
So an example would be that in a lot of these regional areas where we're going for the tree change, there's a lot of land. So if you zoom out and you look at a satellite image and you look around these areas, and Geelong's a great example. If you zoom out a little bit, you'll start to see a lot of green space. Now, if that green space is a valley or a national park, different ballgame. But if that's areas that can be converted over to supply in the coming years, that's a bit of a problem. Equally, if you've got existing building approvals that are already in the pipeline, they can creep up on you. So suddenly you might see some changes in inventory, but as soon as that market starts to get a bit of a roll, the developers roll on in and cash in. And you never get that constraint of supply suffice to truly get your double-digit stuff. And so a lot of us have fallen victim to that. You know, you're buying an area that's still surrounded with all these 800 square meter plus size lots with, old Queenslanders on them that get pulled down and get put up 3 or 4 townhomes. You don't end up making a real lot of money out of the townhomes whilst that supply line continues to flow. This is the challenge that I think we're facing in many of these tree change areas, because you've had a flood of people exiting the cities, an instant, sugar hit of demand. And the developers will go where they can get the land, because they're not finding land in the cities. It's hard for a developer to find stock in the cities. So they'll go to these places, right? They'll try and buy properties and follow where the market can give them some profit. So I think that's the biggest challenge is, we're going to find a lot of greenfield development happening that are going to constrain these models, because suddenly inventory might look good now, but in 6 months' time, it could pick back up again.
Yeah. So kind of just what I'm kind of getting from what you're saying there is be cautious and actually look at Google Maps and kind of understand the lay of that area before you sort of start to say, I mean, data is one thing, and you kind of tick the next boxes, understanding the area itself from
exactly. Yeah. Look at the land. You can even, if you've got a subscription to RP Data or Price Finder, you can go and look at the land. You can look at the lots and see if they're privately owned.
Wow. Is there a quick way? Is that something you're going to do in your platform, Ken, or is that's
I'm not doing individual property stuff because of the data licensing fees start to go boom. So I'm doing the aggregate stuff that keeps my costs lower.
Yeah.
But if somebody subscribes to any of these platforms, and you're pretty serious about buying a property, then you can always kind of talk to a buyer's agent who might already have it if you don't have a subscription, and just have a look around, because if it's privately held land and there's lots of it in and around your potential boom suburb in the bush,
it's going to get developed eventually.
Well, it's just one stroke of a pen in the zoning's change, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not already done.
So this is what we got to look out for, right? We got to look at the SA3 trending down. We've got to then start to see the suburb levels trending down. And then we're going to see days on market going down as well. And we should then see prices starting to move 3 to 4 months after that shift. So we've got a couple of green shoots here. So what are we looking at here?
We can go straight past that. Let's go straight into the first one.
Boom. Eden.
So down the south coast.
Eden. Yeah.
It's, I mean, it's a beautiful spot, but what you'll see is, back around, Q1, around April, May 2020, you see things start to trend down. It wasn't a massive shift, but that's pretty common with a lot of SA3s. You don't see that massive downward, plunge. But you can see the worm starting to turn there around May and June. So that's what you're starting to say is, okay, from June to July, that's looking like, if I'm looking back then, that's looking like a trend down. So that would be the trigger point for me to do the investigation. A bit further, so around June. See how, June, it's gone from, so, let's look at it. From a snapshot perspective, it's close to 6 months. That's just a balanced market, not oversupplied, not undersupplied, just right. No excess pressure on price at all back at that point. But when you start to trend down, the trend line itself puts pressure on the price. So that's the first thing we look at.
Now, look at this straight away.
Look, and you can see the price just starting to nudge up. No, nothing radical, but you can see it starting to nudge up.
Hang on,
and it's lagged. You can see that there's a lag in it. So
it's starting to trend down.
About there, and you go all the way down. You can see it's starting to trend up. Now, the one in the middle tells you probably the story behind most of Australia, which we covered earlier, which is a lot of this has been driven by a contraction, a restricted supply. Listings volumes are down. And what I've been wanting to do is waiting and watching is those locations where listings volumes start to turn up to see what happens to inventory levels, to put some test to see, will demand keep up if supply increases. There are some markets where this test is underway now, where listings volumes have ticked up 5 to 10%. And
which markets are they? Or
Gosford, the Gosford area. So they've ticked up in volume in listings volumes, and inventory still trending down. So it's past the first test.
And inventory still trending down, even though the listings are going up.
Correct. So the demand is still outstripping supply, even though supply's gone up marginally. So, and again, I you don't know until you know. You've got to watch these things and just say, I'm really interested what's going to happen now. But we've got a whole new set of challenges now that all of these markets have been going through the same thing, and they're all low inventory levels. The next 12 months are going to be really interesting. Anyway,
so that's to create more data sets and more data points.
We have to look at different things, because how are you going to be discerning? How do I separate the wheat from the chaff when everything looks pretty rosy? So it's a challenge.
So Eden was a very nice place to be purchasing around. I mean, look at it here, right? And this looks like a very steady graph, which it is, but this is going from 420 to 600. What, a year and a half, 2 years? What was that?
Well, the SA3 regions had a 16% change in the last 12 months. So the last 12 months have been phenomenal. If you were to pick a winner, any of these regions that have got 15% plus, they're truly winners, right?
Yeah.
And at what point does this start to? When do you start to leave the market? Like, I see this now, right? And this is kind of what I'm thinking in my head right now is I see a lot of this throughout a lot of areas throughout Australia, but I've got to buy somewhere. So when do I get scared of when it's like, oh, well, look, it's already had 2 years of growth at 20%, 15%,
It's kind of almost the winner's curse. I mean, it keeps going up till it doesn't go up, and then it goes flat for 3 years or whatever it is, or 2 years.
Yeah, I think if you the one of the variables that I do like to look at is that period between 2010 and 2020, and look at the average annual growth rates, and that is another interesting variable. Yes, things changed with COVID. Yes, we know some markets have changed, but it's a variable of interest, and we can't ignore it. And what it often tells us is that, units, as by comparison to houses, don't perform as well over that 10-year period. And equally, a lot of these regional markets have not performed as well over that 10-year period. So, when I'm limited for choice because everything looks great in terms of inventory, what do I make my decisions on? And suddenly I now have to look for other data variables to make those decisions on to sort out the wheat from the chaff. Yeah.
You pretty much kind of answered my question as to how you sort of say, well, yes, it's performing well now, but if I'm holding an asset for 10 or 15 years, I want it to go well for 10 or 15 years. And before we get into next, I'd love to see some comments.
Same area.
Same area.
Sorry.
Yeah, Eden.
You go.
Yeah, we've got heaps of people on, and the comments have just dropped off. We had a truckload of comments. So if you're getting value, let us know. Like even if it's just to say, yes, I'm getting value, I'm loving this. So throw some questions and we'll get to them eventually, I'm sure. But here you've got market conditions. So what's this days on market? Wow.
No, so this first one is inventory, but at the suburb level. So what we've done is we've jumped out of the SA3 down to the individual suburb now. So again, you can see how it bounces. That's that erratic stuff that does happen at a suburb level, but you can see it jumped up, and that that doesn't mean that the market's horrible. It just means that relative to how many properties have been selling, the ratio is pretty high. But you can probably see a big turning point there. That big turning point happened at the end of 2020. In January 2021, this year, the last 6 months, it's been plummeting. So that type of trend line there tells me a lot. That means it's getting hot. Equally, once it gets below 6 months, it starts to, in its own right, it starts to take on a whole different set of characteristics. So we've got two things driving price: the trend line, i.e. the slope of that curve, and where it is, i.e. if that gets below 3 months, it's a very strong buyer's market. Sorry, a very strong seller's market. So, you've got two key things you're looking for. Is it below 3 months of inventory? And is that trend going down? Both scenarios are going to give you price increases.
And that's what this graph here says. So that's what the 2, the 4, the 6 are. That is the month period. So
that's
now
the month of inventory. So if I were to classify it as a general guide, below 3 months, I classify as a strong seller's market. So under 3, and then 3 to 5 is a seller's market, and 5 to 7 is balanced, etc.
Yeah.
Can I ask one more question before we kind of
there's another chart here? Oh, days on market.
Oh yeah, there is days on market, which is actually increased, wasn't it?
It increased, but that's that erratic nature.
Okay. Yeah, the thing I'd love to see is a trend line thrown in there, a 3 month or is that just kind of throw too much data in on the data set?
What's that? A 3 month what?
Like a 3 month moving average.
Moving average.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what I do is so a lot of the data companies at a suburb level adopt a rolling 12 month because the sample sizes are so small. Say that 10 times fast. But at an SA3 level, you can use a very reliable rolling 90-day, which I do.
Yep.
So most of my, if not all of my SA3 metrics are a rolling 90-day moving average.
Okay. And the suburbs are 12 months, though, are they?
Suburbs have to be 12 months because they go crazy, they're batshit crazy otherwise.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Before we and hopefully, what are your thoughts on though? Because Eden, I'm thinking like 600K for a property in Eden. If I'm paying 600K, why not buying closer to a I don't know the population of Eden, but why would I continue to pay $800,000 for a property in Eden when I can spend 800K and buy in Newcastle or Wollongong and be closer to Sydney or closer to Melbourne somewhere,
or closer to me?
Yeah, he's close to Kent. So where do you sort of factor in affordability, or is that just beyond the data?
Well, look, affordability's been a terrific metric on a number of fronts. If, for example, if you look at affordability as a ratio of income, and looking at, say, in rents, it tells you how much room there might be to move in terms of rentals. So if you're moving into an area that the affordability ratio looks pretty good, i.e., less than 30% of the household expenditure spent on rent, there's probably going to be some room to move for rents to go up. With houses and a lot of the housing market at the moment, it's just a bit of a challenge because the people coming in to buy and pushing up these prices, a lot of them are out-of-towners, and they're coming in with pockets full from Sydney or Melbourne. So it's just this anomaly. It's this weird blip. So me using the average income of Eden or the South Coast market, the average income makes sense. But I'm not measuring the people buying because the people buying are coming in from outside. So there's just some odd stuff going on with all of Australia and all the market. Well, it's actually everywhere around the world at the moment. So, yeah, there are some challenges there. But, look, affordability is a good thing. It's a good metric. But you need to take some of these metrics with a grain of salt because some of them are crazy.
Yeah, cool. Let's do one more market and then do our ad, Joe, and then we can kind of carry on with the. Yeah. I think we have 5 case studies, don't we?
We do. So you can zip around. Fine. This is one up in NT in Palmerston. So a lot of these markets, NT is a fascinating one. Probably hasn't it? It's gone a bit nuts, and probably the biggie was rents. The rents was the first thing to go really nuts in NT and Darwin. So, young families simply can't find properties to rent. It's been really hard. And I think that's been the big driver here for what's happening in the housing market. So, the rental market first to go. But yeah, it's been
Actually, can you talk on that a little bit? Because I think we had a chat offline about not today, but the other day, about the price pressure the rental pressure into how that translates into property prices. Yeah, because you don't think it does. Like, you don't think someone's renting a house; they're just renting. That doesn't mean it's going to translate into those guys buying property.
I think a couple of things has happened, and this is where you start to kind of transition to a little bit of anecdotal data, in that you have the exodus issue where people who are exiting move out and rent first before they buy, and those who are exiting with pocketfuls of money relative to those who are already in those regional locations or Darwin or whatever. So I think that's been one of the biggest drivers, is that, these are families that are renting first, are happy to spend an extra $50, $100 to get the property, and they're truly crowding out the market. What that then does is it pushes all the rental metrics in a certain direction that attracts investors, and then investors come in. And investors push up demand. So suddenly you've got demand coming from outside the indigenous local market. So suddenly now I've got investors coming in from outside. I've got Melbourne, Sydney people coming in from outside, buying into these. And some of these markets are the pool's pretty shallow. There's not a massive amount of stock. So it only takes an extra 5, 10, 20 buyers to come into one of these suburbs to totally tip it on its head.
Yeah. Okay. So people start to rent because they don't want to live there straight away. They're like, I don't know if I'm going to love it here, so I'm going to rent first. And like, I was like, no, surely that doesn't happen. But every time I've always done that. I've always just rented the place first. I'm like, yeah, I actually really like it here. I'm gonna stay. Or no, I really don't like it here. It looked good on paper, but it didn't. That's what everybody does, and that's what drives.
Yeah, you don't know how cold it is from REA's pictures, right? You got to be there a winter.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at these. I actually didn't. We dived in and bought without even renting, which, I mean, we were pretty convinced anyway. So there wasn't a lot of fear. But we're looking here. The house that's at the SA3 level, isn't it, Ken?
Yeah, so this is all these charts. I do all of my trend time series charts using the SA3 for all of those other reasons.
Would that sit into Darwin, or what's the Palmerston?
Yeah, Palmerston's one of the areas in and around Darwin there.
Yeah.
None of them take a long time to drive to either. But yeah, so we're looking at the NT. The NT was languishing. It was after that they had that massive
8 or 9 years, wasn't it? Maybe 10 years.
Well, you had that big gas project. That big gas project port thing.
LNG.
And it went gangbusters for a long time until it didn't. And then the project stopped and it all went, semi-automated and, and all the workers moved on. So I think that really kicked it to the curb for a long time, but it's back. I think it's gotten over that.
What's driving the market there?
I think you've got a lot of military stuff going on there. So I think the base is continuing to expand. So I think a lot of it points to military.
Yeah, and it kind of there's some interesting stuff happening a bit north of Darwin, perhaps. Maybe I don't know too much about it, but you kind of hear in the news, you hear America and another part of the world that you've spent a bit of time in. But I don't know, Darwin concerns. I mean, I don't know how I'd get comfortable with Darwin though, because it seems quite a cyclical market. That's I know you're not necessarily experts on any of these areas, but it kind of seems a little bit.
Yeah, and what I did is what I tried to do is pick 5 examples where the data was a clean demonstration of the whole idea of step phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and these 5 all kind of meet that criteria and paint that picture fairly clearly. I wouldn't put. I'm not saying go and buy in these areas. I'm pointing to the data and talking to the data. To explain a point. So
yeah, absolutely.
So obviously you had a good trend down, a good solid downward trend in inventory. That trend line in its own right, regardless of whether it sits at 8 or 6 or wherever it sits, that downward trend puts pressure on price, right? So that's number one. And then once it falls below 3, it really starts to put pressure on price.
So we are in a potential good little area here because we haven't hit 3 months yet. We're trending down into 4. And we're starting to see it trick up. And look at this little spike up here, little spike.
The problem is, Joe, you're seeing probably 15 to 20% growth roughly in the area already. So you sort of start to say all it needs is that inventory. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad area to invest, but I'm just saying Darwin as a whole, as a median, as a capital city, has gone up 23% in the last 12 months, right? So I'm sort of thinking, I don't know, how long is that lasting? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think the biggie there is look at the uptick in listings. That's starting to. That's a big uptick there. And you can probably see house prices react to that. You see how that's not that curve on the last one. That's starting to flatten a little bit. So that tells me this is a great example of where the increase in listings volume really starts to test the inventory level and price movement. And I'd have to argue the thing with Darwin is there's a lot of land there.
There is. I'm not too sure how much of it is developable. I mean, I don't know. Is there national parks, kind of reserves that they can't develop, I'd imagine? I mean, I don't know.
I think if anyone's serious about Darwin, talk to a local valuer or a local buyer's agent before you jump and ask all of those questions.
Yeah. Let's quickly do one more, Joe, and then we'll do, because this might be a 2-hour session if you're up for 2 hours, Kent.
Yeah. So you can see here an uptick again, that volatility in that, but you can see inventory spiked up, and now it's just that solid trend down. So Malden does look like it's got some heat in it because of that.
Back on the suburb level. This is not the SA3 level.
This is now at the suburb level. So
this is
suburb. Performing. It's starting to perform.
So how do you then look at all the suburbs in the SA3? So there's 10, 15 suburbs in an SA. Well, like it depends. But do you then just go look at the charts for all whatever?
What I like to do at this point is I like to look at heat maps. So when I look at a heat map, I look at inventory levels or a growth score, as I've called it. So I converted it to a 1 to 10 growth score. So I like to look at that. I like to look at vacancy rates. I like to look at price rankings as well. And that just gives me a bit of a feel for the area, because sometimes you might find that little suburb that is not everyone's followed into, that's offering, it does look relatively well priced. And sometimes they can outperform.
Yeah, so and when you say price rankings, you're talking about if you've got 15 suburbs in an area, you got number 1 is the highest ranked, and then you got 15 is the lowest.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a couple of different ways you could do a heat map with prices. You can bucket them and say, if it's within, 800 to 900K, it's this color, and if it's 900 to whatever. But that doesn't give you a lot of contrast between suburbs, because if you rank them using some different ranking methods, they're ranked from 1 to 10, from highest to lowest, you get a much better contrast, and they pop on the map.
Do you have something off the cuff you'd be able to show us, a heat map, or I don't want to promise the audience something before we can?
Yeah. There's a heat map on suburb trends, and if you open up the map on go to I am a home buyer, that one in the middle, that'll take you to a link to the map. Could
we finish the report? Because I'm conscious. I like to finish where I start. Can we run through the report? I just wanted to see if we could actually do it. Do people want to see that? Throw yes in the comments. Go back.
Okay, we'll come back to it, and I'll show you a place called Katara. And Katara, relative to the price ranking and around it, it's got some really expensive suburbs next door.
Here we go.
Are we looking at that one, or are we looking at Rosewood?
Whatever one you
Rosewood
want.
is Ipswich.
There you go.
Go back.
Wow. Because I don't know, like Ipswich has had its, it's has a lot of potential land supply. So it's sort of, but I'm looking at the data here. I'm looking at the stats, and it looks pretty solid.
Look, it does, but what you would do before you jump in, you'd say, with all that land around it, like any of these locations, you'd always ask the question, is it going to grow ad infinitum, or is it going to get to a point where zoning starts to change and there's a flood of new supply? And,
exactly.
Unless you're landlocked, you've always got that risk. So, I've got a different philosophy. I like places like Lura or Katoomba because they've got valleys between them, and they're landlocked.
You got some of the parts of the sort of what you're talking about, the Illawarra sort of areas, parts of it, and then parts of it that have a lot of land as well.
Yeah, but north of Wollongong, right? That strip that goes all the way up, you've got a mountain on one side and beach on the other, and a thin strip of land.
It's a bit expensive. That's the only challenge I face. And you sort of say, well, am I going to spend 1.5 million on an investment property plus?
Yeah.
We may even, I don't know if we could share this with the audience, or maybe you could share it. Maybe they could send you a message, Ken. I don't know how we get this out to the gang. But what's the next suburb, Joe? Let's race through these last two.
Well, it's not about racing through them. It's about getting the lowdown on what it is.
I'm just thinking, otherwise we're going to be here for 3 hours already.
Are we going to buy in Rosewood? Or are we not buying in Rosewood? What are we doing?
Well, I'd look at that and say inventory's going down. That's great. Listings are going down, but could change. But prices have not really surged. So this is an example where you'd say the overall area is not going great gun, but you might find some price performance in the individual suburb. This is the SA3. Now we go into the suburb. Look at that. It's plummeting. All right, okay. So the suburbs, now that suburb's going
high, though.
So it's going all the way down. It's going to plummet. It's going to get below 4. So it's looking pretty good. Then we go to days on market, and that's starting to trend down as well. So the evidence is telling me, oh, this is interesting. Okay.
It's still quite high, though.
And then we're seeing some price movement in this individual suburb because of that inventory, that rapid shift down in inventory for Rosewood. Now, would I buy there? I wouldn't, but I'm just highlighting this is what the data's saying. This is how inventory correlates to a green shoot movement in price.
But you're just saying not yet, because there hasn't been a long enough trend of upward prices?
I'd say that's going to continue to go for several months.
Yeah. Juicy. Okay. Well, let's run our ad for our. Let's run before we dive deep into Murray's Bridge and jump off into that. We will run through our fantastic.
Yeah. Let's do Mr. Scotty Agate. Love it.
Oh, yeah.
The good guy. Joe.
Okay, hold on. This is
I'm gonna hit
play.
Love it. Oh.
7 p.m. project campaigning against agent underquoting. Scott is an expert negotiator through and through. Every single day, he is negotiating with real estate agents to get the best price for his clients. To give you a bit of a background, Scott has been working in real estate since 1995, and as a real estate agent, built up 3 Bell franchises. He was the guy teaching the agent all the tips and tricks to get the most out of the buyers. However, Scott realized that there was actually no one on the side of the person buying the property, and he saw them constantly letting emotion get in the way and paying way over for the property. And that's why he created Hello House, Australia's first property negotiation as a service business, where he's on the side of the buyer. In hot markets like we have now, you need absolutely every single edge that you can get. These agents are trained professionals, and they are there to get the most money out of you, which is why you need to have an expert of your own in your own corner. The way it works, you find the property, then Scott will come in at the negotiation phase and take over for you. This is how you'll get the property for its true value. He'll ensure that you don't overpay. He comes in, knocks the real estate agent down on price. No more agent games, no more tricks, no more tactics. He is there for you. Scott has been kind enough to offer us an amazing discount for his service, and I've personally just seen a friend pay $20,000 more on a property because of these agent games. Reach out to him with the link below. It'll be the best property investment you will ever make.
There you go, Joe. Well done. We've got there. I just had a look at some of the comments, and people are. There you go, Joe's big mug. Here we go, green shoot number 4. But people are loving the. I'm just blown away by how many comments we're getting, and everybody's loving. Everybody wants the heat map as well, by the looks of it.
Happy days.
Green shoot number 4 though.
Yeah, so Murray Bridge, it's a pretty spot. You know, when you're doing your surfing of where I'm going to retire to, and dream locations, the places like this do turn up. They're quite pretty.
Have you been to all these places, Kent? I imagine you have.
I've been to. I spent. So Eden, yes. Murray Bridge, yes. The reason, and my first 10 years of career, I was rolling out pay TV and TV through the regional areas and designing cable networks for these remote mining towns and stuff. And I was in charge of the cable TV rollout through Darwin. So that was my first part of my career.
You'll see stories over TVs one of these days. I'd love to.
It was fascinating. I'll tell you, I've got to tell you this story. The most fascinating thing I saw, the most disgusting thing I saw in my life, as I went into a mining town, one of these remote mining towns, South Australia, Olympic Dam, and they've got all these big communal toilets, and it had like 10 toilets in a row, and every one of the toilets had a pile, probably 30 or 40 high, of dirty magazines in each cubicle for the miners.
The audience just dropped off a cliff.
It's etched into my mind, and it was the worst thing you could ever imagine in the world. There you go.
God. Okay. Let's go jump off Murray's Bridge after that.
I love it. Unscripted.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things, so I wanted to talk a little bit about this, like a solid average monthly sale volume of 20 average houses sold per month.
Sound like a lot.
When is exactly what is too little? What is too lot? Like, when do you actually this place only sells 5? Like,
it's just an arbitrary figure. This is an automated text that I create for the software. Yep. So I've got to pick some arbitrary figures. Now, the correct answer to your question would be, what's the right size? I get this asked, what's the right sample size to do a median, blah, blah, blah. The answer is it depends on the shape. And what I mean by that is, if you are normally I'm not being dirty. If you're normally distributed and it's a really tight, homogenous market, all the properties are within, 5% of each other price-wise, all homogenous, you're going to get a really small sample size and it's going to be perfect. But if you've got one of these beachside suburbs that's got, multi-million-dollar houses there and, near the beach here, and that's the next, you've got all these, you've got multiple prices because you've got multiple markets in one suburb, and those suburbs only have 3 or 4 sales a month, you're in trouble. Yeah. So what I'm saying is the sample size is something you can't just instantly answer without saying, well, that depends on the market that I'm measuring.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So you kind of, if I'm getting what you're saying, you'd look at, okay, there's 20 sales, but what is the distribution of where those properties are selling? Is that kind of
the price distribution. So if it's like a bell-shaped curve or the Gaussian, some French bloke, if it's a approximately normal bell-shaped curve and not lumpy and crazy or skewed one way or the other, then that's the key. You can get away with smaller sample sizes if it's well behaved and normally distributed.
I was trying to find just real quick access for price.
Yeah, I know. I saw this the other day. I think I got to put my email address in now. I was like, oh damn it, I got to.
You can get some price segmentations on. If you scroll down, just scroll down on my map. Go back up to my map, where I've got to change the title from general to how slack am I. Just go back up. Sorry, it's a map. The map link just below. I'm going to make that image a link. Scroll down just a bit. Just underneath that image is a link that says "Go to the map." Pardon me.
Map box. Yeah.
A bit further. There it is. See that? That's pretty shitty, right?
Oh, open map.
I've got a bit of work to do.
I would have never seen that.
I got to. Okay, yeah, I cop it. Right.
That's terrible.
Okay. Sorry,
okay,
everybody. Yes, I'm crap. So
no,
if you enter in a suburb here. What suburb do we want to pick on?
What was that? Murray
Bridge. Murry, not Murray, just Murray. Murray Bridge. I think. Murray Bridge. Where is it? Or is it Murray Bridge? There he is. Murray.
It's still the Murray River. Murray River spelled with an A in it. Yeah.
So if you go to one of those icons that loads up, once it loads up, one of those, it's going to tell you, there you go, the price segment, that one, price segments. That answers your question. See that one? That's pretty normally distributed.
That's amazingly distributed. I guess.
Right? That's a good one. That's a beauty.
Now, this is super key for investors, right? What the heck are you going to buy there? Do you want to be the person buying the 600 to 800,000?
Thank you.
Probably not.
There's only probably 1 or 2 properties have ever transacted at that. Yeah.
Well, they'd be the Riverside, some beautiful big Riverside properties that transact up in that price bracket. But what this does is it tells you, am I buying in the top bracket? That's got some risks. Equally, if I'm buying in a lower bracket, have I got room to move if I want to renovate?
Yeah. Yeah, that's where you kind of bring in the Jane Slack Smiths of the world and kind of go to realestate.com, and she did a fantastic walkthrough of how to look at the renovated versus unrenovated type properties as well.
Yeah.
So there you go. Awesome. That's the price segmentation, and that's the use of that. So it tells you a couple of things. How reliable is a median price going to be at the suburb based on the shape of that distribution? Now, if you put in any beachside suburb, you'll find that distribution is not well behaved.
Put in Glenelg. Maybe it's going to make a lives here because I don't know what Glenelg's going to look like. Punch in Glenelg in South Australia. So GLEN.
The suburb. There you go. Up there you go. There's your Glenelg.
You know what?
There you go.
Was it there? We're going to spell it Cronulla because I know how to spell it.
Cronulla.
Yeah, we always do New South Wales. Let's do some. We should.
I know how to spell Cronulla. I can't get in trouble. Can't look silly if I try. But yes, knowing Cronulla, it's got a very different segmentation.
Look at that. 3 markets.
Yeah. 3 markets. Okay, you say 3 markets pretty quickly. What do you, because I see, how do you say that?
So you got the overfill mill, which is all down around the bay, anything waterfront. Then you got stuff that still might have water views in that next bracket, and then you've got the rest.
Now, are these out? Oh, these are units. Oh, I'm looking at units, and these are houses.
No house under 1.4 million Cronulla. Jesus.
Yeah. So there you go. And then the stuff, the stuff down the bottom, that segment there, that's probably main road stuff, because you've got some pretty big, long main roads. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So that's a practice we did it. I don't know if that's not heat mapping, but let's do our last suburb. So Murray Bridge.
No, I think we get it. I think we get that point. I think now let's jump to the heat maps, because I think that what is the purpose of a heat map? Can you run me through?
If you want to hit that X, let's hit the X and let's stay down in the Shire. Hit the X and we open up. Now we're into the heat map. So what we've got here we've got a growth score for houses, dark blue being the highest likely growth in the next 12 months based on inventory, based on machine learning inventory.
Have we got a legend? Where's our legend?
Oh, now you're picking on me, right? Yes, I know. I've got to create. So my IT guy's building it so that when you click over it, the legend and it's in a light.
I'm just thinking, if I'm thinking blue is cold, like why isn't it red?
Oh, come on, mate! Jesus Christ!
It'll be in the light box,
Jeff. It's free.
You'll hover over it, and the light box will tell you exactly what it is in about 2 weeks' time. So, what have we got? We've got growth score for houses, growth score for units. Everything's blue at the moment, which tells you everywhere's low inventory and forecast to stay low inventory. Units are a little bit different. If you zoom out of that map, you'll start to see in and close to the city pockets of red. So that's an example.
Danger. Red flag.
The unit market's really different all over the place right now, but it's improving rapidly, I've got to say. Now, I'm not saying that you'd go to units, but if you're measuring inventory and you're measuring short-term growth, units are going to show a lot of green shoots. So the growth score for houses, growth score for units. Price ranking is an interesting one. The price ranking is the next one down on the heat map. If you just go down, scroll down to that on the panel, across to the
next option.
Sorry, next one down. There you go. Thank you very much. So,
wow.
What that does is that gives you an idea of which is the lowest and the highest rank. So all that's doing is giving you contrast.
For the SA3 level, yeah?
Yeah, so what we do is I take the median price for a suburb, make it relative to every other median price in the SA3 of all those suburbs, and rank them, and then put a color contrast on them.
So what, hang on, just to dumb that down for me, what you're saying is that out of this SA3, Caringbah South is the most affordable.
Right in the middle. That's kind of that's right in the middle. So
really red. So that one, I don't know, whatever that area.
Oh, this one's the most affordable. Okay.
This is so you got different price brackets. So the highest price versus the lowest price there.
Right. That's and down here is the highest price. The highest water.
Burnie is a very expensive one, etc.
I mean, even in that really affordable, you're probably spending $5 million for a car park in the area. So I don't know. So I want to get some audience engagement. Let's do free. Let's just do free areas at random, or let's do free suburbs. Throw free. So the first 3 suburbs, we'll quickly get those up. I mean, it's a bit slow, so maybe we should do the first 2 suburbs. So what are 2 suburbs, people? And we'll do a bit of analysis and talk through the areas as a bit of a live demonstration of heat.
And I'll pull it up on the screen here too at the same time.
Grange in South Australia and Tagan. Geez, I know Tagan quite well. I know Tagan because I've got a property in that area.
Which Grange? Queensland, or there's 2 Granges?
No, Grange is in South Australia.
Which one though? Did they want Grange SA or Grange Queensland?
South Australia. Okay. Sorry, folks. We've got about 10 inches.
Bloody hell! Look at you guys. There's a lot of people watching.
We're going to do it on Kent's screen. Should we? Sorry, folks. You could maybe, yeah.
No, keep it there, and I'll keep on. So obviously, the first thing you're looking at there is the summary data. So median asking price is 690K. Okay, 12 months ago that was 708. But when I look at the house listings, i.e., 12 listings, and I look at the price distribution, I ignore the price change there in a lot of cases, because you can see there, because of the shape of it, you got a market that's represented up around that. You know, you got a market that exists above 2 mil, and then you got a market that exists below 1 mil. So it's that's a classic example of different. So that tells me that relying on a change in median price for a suburb like that with, on average, 12 listings, it's not going to be a robust median metric.
Now, are these houses? This is houses. Yep, and this is unit info. Yep.
So if we go to what's the are you able to reverse engineer what the SA3 for Grange is? And
the SA3 for it's on the next page over. If you look through the next summary text, the next tab, it'll tell you what the SA3 is. It's the Charles Sturt SA3.
Yes, I should know this because Alberton is in Charles Sturt, I believe. Maybe that could be in Port Adelaide. That's probably Port Adelaide or Enfield.
And, Charles Sturt, it's grown by about 10% in the last 12 months. That's a pretty common price growth for most of Adelaide.
So this is an interesting one, because you're seeing growth at the SA3 level, but then you'd want to actually look at you could easily just look at the individual sales of the properties, couldn't you? If there's only 12.
What I would do is I always go to the SA3 when I want to understand price growth. Yeah. And then if I'm in one of these suburbs like a Grange or a beachside suburb, the best thing you can do if you've got access to an RP data or a price finder or other platform is to pull the property up that's just sold that you're comfortable with and you're familiar with, and look at its price, and then go and do a CMA as at a year ago for it. Do that a few times, and you got the best index you could possibly create. So you're doing a repeat valuation. You've got to do it across a handful of properties to, get a good balance and a good average. But if you do that a few times, a few repeat valuations, you'll get a better gauge on things than any AVM or any index will.
That is a really good life hack. So what you're doing and what you're trying to get out of that is to say, hey, what is the true median value of this place? Because you could do that by street level, right? You could look up a main street and say, okay, I don't care about the rest of the suburb. I care about this street, and I want to know what has had the most growth. Because if this area here has had, a 5% growth, that means this street had a 3% growth. This one had a 7% growth. This one had a 1% growth. And all that is just the median. So you could run up the street, just run CMAs on all of the ones that have sold within the last 6 months, last year, go back a year, and then you've got a very, very good indicator of the growth of that. That is a life hack and a half. Sensational.
Yeah, that's kind of a better version of what they got in the States called a case Shiller index, a repeat sale index. So they pair up a sale of the same property, and then you fit a line through it, and it's a pretty damn good index. But for houses, it's not that much chop, because houses often sell 12, 13, 14 years plus in between drinks. So it'll work well for units in Australia. It works very well for rentals, but it doesn't work well for houses. Also, because people renovate them, they're always at Bunnings doing stuff. So, it's not ideal for houses, but this is the if you've got the time, if you're going to spend $700K or $1 million bucks or whatever, why wouldn't you do this a few times and have a truly accurate handle on A, what's selling, and B, what their price was a year ago?
Yeah. But do you see any value in doing it for 2 years ago, or 2 years is too much, too far? Whatever.
Just depends on what your use case is.
Now let's do one more. This is a suburb close to my heart, Tagan. That's how to spell it, Joe. I've got it. I brought it up on the screen for you.
Thanks, mate. I know how to spell it.
Okay. Oh, you do. You know it. close to Aspley and Zilmere and
don't ask me Zilmere.
Yeah.
I think I already know. Ours will look all right here, I'm sure. But there you go.
Oh, God. What happened there?
So Sandgate,
No, that's gone up. I was looking at it the other way.
Yeah. That's why when he was talking about the other before, Joe, that had actually gone down. Grange had gone, but there was only 12 anyway. So you sort of, how statistically reliable is it?
Yeah, so it's at the Sandgate SA3's gone up by 11%. So it's a little bit behind some of the other areas. You go to Wynnum and whatnot, that's had some much bigger growth.
I'm really surprised by that unit asking price, though. I'd love to see. Is there a way you could bring into your platform actual sales price, or is that?
So anything you're seeing at the SA3 is the actual sale price.
Okay.
So what I try and do is based on my hard trend analysis and hard inventory analysis at the SA3, and then use the suburb data as the snapshot to say, if you're going to buy in this property today, which is why you're probably looking at this platform, this is the best way I can give you a gauge of what to expect.
Look at that. Look at that inventory for units as well. Gee, I mean, it's come down, and I suppose that's potentially a hotter market.
No, well, that's hot.
Yeah. It is.
That's pretty good. And then the forecast is 3.3, so it's saying it's trending down.
How accurate?
How do you come up your forecast again?
So with that, it's machine learning, which takes in a few years of data. So we spoke at the start of the show. We said, okay, we're taking time series data lagged in 1 month, and in that panel of data that we've got listing prices, sale prices, number of listings. We've got quartiles, percentile type data, the 25th percentile, the 75th percentile, which is a big driver. We've got inventory levels. We've got building approval. So there's a lot of data goes in. What comes out of it ultimately is the biggest predictor is inventory. But in machine learning, what it does is it pivots on certain things. It says, look, moved in the last 5 years, or high income, or this or that. It could go to some census data, which is just not time series, it's a snapshot of data. And it pivots and says, you go over there and we'll build a few hundred models over there for anything where income levels are below 2,000 a month or a week or whatever. So it's a bucket full of time series and static data from census. And then what it does is it runs overnight and it comes back and it tells me what the predictor is. What I do is I do a true test where, as I say, if I ignore everything that's happened in the last 12 months, I've trained it on the data that was 12 months old to predict today. How well did you predict today?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Predicting inventory levels 95% plus within half. So it's within, there are very, very few significant errors in it. So it's a pretty easy thing to fit, though, because it's not crazy, massive range. All I'm trying to do here is to pick up whether it's trending up or down marginally. That's the main thing. Prices, it doesn't predict well. Prices are volatile. So I predict days on market, I predict vacancy rates, I predict inventory. But inventories are really well-behaved, easy to predict variable. And all I'm trying to do is to say, are things going to heat up or continue the way they are or cool down?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
Was that nerdy enough for you?
Yeah, no. I was definitely. I mean, I don't know. Could it get much nerdier? I mean, you could probably tell us the what's the SQ. I don't know if it's SQL. It's probably not SQL. It's probably some sort of other more complicated programming language that does it.
I just use a third-party platform called BigML because it's easy for a dummy like me to use. So the rental space, it's got the rental stuff in there. I aggregate rentals, so I throw in the way I measure vacancy rates is I take all the houses and all the units that are vacant or have been advertised for 3 weeks or more, and that's my numerator. And the number of properties that are advertised by real estate agents is the denominator, and that's my vacancy rate.
Yep. That's pretty cool.
Okay, cool. So let's just do a bit of a dry run here. I'm looking for a place. I think Orange is a good little area to go in, and then all of a sudden I've got Orange up here, which is filled with a nice little city here, and then it's what the heck? It's got a chip taken out of it.
It's got a lot of land there, hasn't it?
Got Windera. Cool. Okay, so I've got this now. Then I go over to the data, and I get a little overwhelmed here. So
why is Windera carved out? Is that a different SA3? Is it?
No, it's a different suburb.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Interesting.
Okay. So then what am I looking at first here? Like, what strikes you as a first-time investor? Like, because this is going to be the biggest challenge, right? Is for this platform is like, you have all the amazing information here that people charge thousands and thousands of dollars, guys. And, jump on here right now, suburbtrends.com.au, and you get access to all of it. It's mental. But I do get a little bit overwhelmed with, analysis paralysis. So how do I jump in here, and what am I seeing here? Like, what are some of the key takeaways? Now, I see here that the price has gone up, 100K, just under 100K.
Well, that's the asking, but
But that's So you'll find that when we go over to the text, the next one over will give you a good description of the overall market, and that kind of guides you in there.
Yeah, so that gives you that foundation.
It gives you the foundation. Now, and I don't know whether maybe that's the better one. I could move that tab first. It's only been out there for a week or two, so so I'll happily put that there first, so I can explain things away. The biggie that I would look at straight away is the inventory level. What's the current inventory level, and what's the forecast? And I could simplify it by calling it a growth score.
You could,
but
you should.
Inventory is what the North Americans have been using inventory levels for a long, long time, and the industry and the investors and the heavy duty users of public information, private, paid information in the States understand inventory. So,
So what we need to do first is break the chains of what we normally want to do. We want to go straight to orange. No, we don't. We jump to the third tab and we go to the SA3, because that is where the real information is going to be telling us from a holistic overview. So we can start to see, okay, this is now been in a seller's market for a long, long time, and it's trending down and it's trending down. Our housing listings, they're trending down as well. And our price, lo and behold, let's just guess what's going to happen to the price when these two things happen. Oh, what? It's going up.
Yep.
And then we jump over to here, and then we're like, great. There are some good scores here. There's some good data that tells us that we're going to be in a good place. Let's now check out orange and mean test it against the SA3. So you're telling us it's a strong seller's market. It's actually been stable compared to 3 months ago. The average house sale volume is 81 sold per month, and the time taken to sell one is 35 days. It was 51 days 12 months ago. The median house price is 520K. The SA3 for the area, that has changed 20% in the last 12 months.
Huge.
And how much has orange changed in the last?
One red flag that I'd like to point out there is the unemployment rate estimate at 7.1%, which is considerably above the national average, I imagine. I don't know what the national average is, but
I don't think that's too much above the national average at all.
Okay, because we get these unemployment numbers that they say monthly. It's in the high 4s, low 5s at the moment. So what is the national average versus the?
I think it's in the 6s. I didn't come armed with that. I often do. We'll do a quick Google search on it, but I've got a problem with it. I put it up there because people have asked for it, but all I've got to do is work 1 or 2 hours a week for NDIS, and I'm employed and I'm counted. You know, and that's where
basically.
That you got well-educated people just working a couple of hours a week and they're counted. It's just nutty.
So one thing here is the median house price for orange is 520, and we estimate a 20% price change in the SA3.
Yes. So last 12 months.
In the last 12 months. So is that better? Is 520 better than is that above the median? Like above the
orange, the suburb there? So The challenge you've got with Orange is you got both the
SA3 is
the SA3 is called Orange and the suburbs called Orange.
That's annoying.
I don't have an answer to that one.
It's nothing you can do about that one.
We've stumped the data nerd. Gee, what have we done?
I think the best thing I can do is call it Orange SA3 and Orange Suburb.
Yeah. Okay. Now, one area that I don't think we've touched on very much is vacancy rates. I know that we've walked around the peripherals, but what can you tell us about vacancy rates that we should be looking closer at?
I click on rent, and what's going on there? You might need to just refresh.
Yeah. Even the computer's had enough. It's like I've been doing this. So I'm thinking
we've just flooded the platform with traffic.
So
we are going to have to wrap this up though, because we're at an hour 40 and we haven't even got to any questions. So questions is going to be about one or two questions.
I'll tell you what it is. So effectively, back in June, it was about 1.58. It fell below 1%, which is critical in July 2020, and it's hovered below 0.5% ever since then. So Orange is in an absolute rental crisis.
Oh, God. Yeah, well, what does that mean? Good things for investors.
I'm a bit contrarian here, because I'm just thinking like most things revert to the mean, and I know there's a pandemic, so I'm kind of thinking, yes, it's had an amazing run and there's not a lot of properties to rent, but how long can that continue? I mean, I don't know. And it's kind of, I'm not saying prices are going to drop 20%. I'm not doing a kind of bank prediction here, but I'm just saying, has this market run too hot for too long?
Well, if you go to Orange and you look at the last icon, which is building approvals, and you zoom out and you look at all that green land around there, that might answer a lot of that. So
and that's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm sort of saying, yes, it's done fantastically well, but I don't know, like, it's kind of, it's a little bit.
I think with a lot of the tree change locations that are surrounded with land, they'll have a good run, but it'll only last so long.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Let's well, I think we're going to have to get you back. We'll get you back for round two, and we'll sort of.
Yeah.
But definitely. I mean, I'm happy for you to go longer, Joe. But I'm just mindful of Kent's time, and I can hear it. He's been talking a lot more than probably what we have, so his voice is getting a bit croaky as well. So
it's just because I'm old.
Cool. Okay. Well, let's hit some. Get my little face off here. Get my little screen off, and we'll hit some questions.
Yeah, let's do it. Now we just got a bigger face.
Get rid of my face.
I still haven't worked out this damn. Yeah, we go. We sorted it out now. So again, we're going to throw into some questions, but while we're getting some of those, Joe, have you got any really burning questions you want to ask? So I had a few, but I think the problem is if I ask a question or two, it'll turn into a 50-minute conversation. So have you got any quick questions, Joe?
No, I think what you've covered off so far is so valuable, and it's so useful as well. Like, thank you so much for covering so much gold off. Like, there's it's good just to have because you hear all of these things, but you never get the deep dive. And it's so hard with podcast. Like, this medium is perfect for it, because we've now got you just sitting on our shoulders, clicking, no, that's what this means. No, don't worry about this, worry about that. So, no, I haven't got anything. I think I need to digest this, and and then I'll come up with more questions for round two. We'll have
and I think I don't know the time frame we get you back on, but in 3, maybe 6 months, at a meaningful time frame where we can sort of say, okay, let's take a look back, and maybe let's kind of pin some suburbs that you are really keen on looking at or think are interesting, and we can say 6 months time, let's look at it. So what are some of the questions? For your questions, we'll probably have time for 5, maybe 10 minutes, depending on how full Kent's Merlot is. But I don't know if you're drinking a Merlot. Have you got a Shiraz, or you got a red?
It's just the Taylor's. There you go.
Oh, look at that, mate.
It's got all the stickers. That just tells me it's good, right?
Yeah. Saves you thinking for yourself.
we did have some free. I think we had one question, pre-prepared question we hadn't answered, but throw some for if the audience had any. I think we did have some earlier on. Here we go. Kent the nerd. I think that's probably Luke. So one of the questions. Argy. He's been watching. He's been lapping it up. He's got it on the live. He's not playing his NBA live tonight. He's got us on the live screen. How do I feel that? So let's see.
So is the Australian David Green of analogies. Who's David Green? I got called. Who did I get called last week?
David Green. Oh, you got called. It was that you had a voice like Keith Urban.
Keith Urban. What's David Green? Anyway, okay, cool. What else have we got? There's so many people like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like, oh,
yeah. So throw us a really tough. Oh, what was it? Throw us a really tough question. I want to know. I mean, maybe not tough, but I want to hear what's a curly question for Kent, and we'll unpack it if we're not. I think there was one from Denise, and we sort of covered it a roundabout way, but it'd be good to. This is kind of to Joe's kind of. You look at this data and you say, okay, great. The question from Denise was, what are the hidden ones? I don't know. Have we talked about that? Have we talked about that, Joe?
What data to look at, she asked. And I prepared notes for both Denise and Leith. And so what data to look at? And I said, well, the first one that a lot of people overlook is they don't look at the trends. They look at the current. So I think the first and most important thing is look at the deltas, look at the trend lines. So that's pretty important. And some of those. Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
This is Denise's question. What are the hidden ones, and which may not be obvious, which may tell a real story? So you said trend lines and delta.
I think that the trend lines are important. The price segments, we covered that. So I wanted to make sure. So we've done that. I think the price ranking relative to its surroundings is important. And I think the pipeline building approvals is always good. But what you do want, what I believe, and it's just my opinion, is you want to know pipeline approvals at a bit broader level, because you're not immune from an adjacent suburb having a big building block there or 200 homes being built. So you probably do want to look at the broader area. The pipeline approvals, because it's not, if you look at one suburb and say, oh, there's no approvals, that's great, but what's happening next door?
Yeah. So we're going from Jerry. She's an ardent supporter of the show. She loves a lot of what we do. So I think we sort of did talk about this, but what about investment spend and employment data as lead indicators? Is it a lead or is it a lag?
No, I've tested it quite a few times, and I think the biggest challenge, both of them are important, but they get swamped by some of these other variables when you enter models, and I think a lot of times with investment, it's already been factored in. The speculation starts early. It's already been captured. But you can't ignore it, a new hospital and whatever. Now, I've heard a lot of people criticize and say, no, it's not predictive. But I still can't ignore it. Now, I've tried it in the models, but I never say never when it comes to any of these data, because what you may well find is there might be a tipping point. There might be some change in the next 6 months. There might be something that suddenly variables that weren't significant in these models suddenly enter when they make sense. And to me, both of those make sense. So I keep on using them. They don't show up, but I keep on sticking at them.
Interesting.
And what's that? Sorry, what do you...
I keep on using them. I keep on pouring them in and testing them, trying them, because I believe in them. But the machine learning, the statistical model saying, no thanks. But that doesn't mean I give up on them. No. So at the moment, I'd say, they statistically, they're not showing up. They're not making much use in the models. But again, I would never turn my back on them.
Yeah, we had a curly question come through about your investing. I feel free to handball that one and say,
I like to call myself the property data guy, not the property guy. My view of the ideal scenario is me staying as a property data nerd and never portraying myself as the property guy, because then I've got this great relationship with buyer's agent. My objective is I want to build in this platform whenever you find a suburb, there'll be one buyer's agent sponsoring it. So that's how I'll make my money. And that's how I'll fund and make this thing better. So I'll have buyer's agents sponsoring me. So then when that question gets asked, I say, no, don't ask me about the property. Ask the sponsoring buyer's agent.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is actually makes me feel a lot more comfortable as an investor or as a why are you doing this thing, right? Like you've got to get something out of it, right? The business model has to make sense. You're not spending hundreds of thousands of dollars every year on data. You're doing it because you're running a business here, and it's good because you're like, oh, awesome. There is the model. It's the model is the buyer's agents have an ad there, and they can run and they can purchase the thing. But as an investor, I get all the data.
You get all the data. And and for the 1 in 100 or the 5 in 100 that decide I want a buyer's agent, they might go with the one that's on the platform they've just researched and used for the last month.
Absolutely. Of course they will. They'll call them up and say, hey, mate, what's going on? What's doing next? Oh, well, you're going to have to get on the ground. You're going to have to start looking around. I don't want to do that. Well,
so that's the idea. And it's a journey, and the journey starts now. The pricing is not expensive for the buyer's agent, but if they want to get on, they get on now, and they grab it exclusively, and they're on that journey.
Ride the coattails. But I was going to say, because for me, I think that there's an over. It's being a generalist is sort of somewhat overrated, because trying to be an expert in purchasing, actually looking at and buying a piece of properties, and also sort of the expert in interpreting the data is just going to be it's going to be almost impossible. Next to almost not a chance of doing it. So
and I've made some property. The reason why I really got involved in the data side of it is I was making some emotive decisions in the property investment space.
Yeah, we all have.
Exiting prematurely because I thought the sky was going to fall with the GFC.
Yeah.
So that was the catalyst for me saying, focus on the data, be good at the data.
Be the data king. Be the data wizard.
Yeah. Data nerd, mate. Be the data nerd.
You can be a wizard and a nerd. But I think while we're sort of giving, I like Joe to wrap it up. Joe's amazing at wrapping it up. I sort of waffle too much, so I could probably I'll focus. So I'll be the specialist of waffling, and Joe can be he can wrap it up. But one more. If we have one more question, we have one last one. But Joe, in the meantime, bring us home. And if we have a question pop in, then we'll throw to it.
I don't like the pressure.
Well, okay, all right, okay. I can do it.
Okay, hold on.
Give it a cracky. Oh, here we go. We had a question. This is the curveball, the pandemic. Will there be new data points that would significantly affect trends? It's a good question. Interesting.
Yeah, I think this is a cracker. I think we opened the show with this, in that we've suddenly got this new workforce, this work from home movement. And what it's done is it's changed where we can live and work in such a way that there were whole markets, whole cities, whole states like Tasmania that we used to worry. I spent a long time in mortgage insurance, and we'd always worry about the unemployment variable. Always worried about it. And Tasmania would go through a bit of a hot surge, and then it'd go down, and it wouldn't get a run on because of jobs. Even Brisbane, even southeast Queensland was for a long time exposed to this problem of jobs. And so great places to live, beautiful places, but they had a constraint. The constraint was that employment variable. I think the variable there, the data of interest now, is how much COVID and work from home has alleviated that pressure point on markets, because suddenly now these areas have got an injection. There's a TV show on ABC about people, well-educated people who go in and do an entrepreneurial thing in some bush location, wherever. It's an amazing show. And I think there's a lot of that going on. So you're getting this massive injection of capital into a lot of these regions that you could never have dreamt of. So anyway, I think that would be the data point of interest, is how COVID and work from home has changed the housing market.
Yeah.
And NBN strength as well, maybe?
My NBN sucks. I win the award.
Sorry,
I'm on a first name basis with the senior executive. They're coming here tomorrow, actually, for the 7th time. And NBN. I think you've got to make a decision. You've got to ask the question, where I'm moving to has it got good internet connection before I decide to work from home?
Well, it's done pretty well this session, I must say. You've got to be choppy around sort of 30 minutes, but it was
because
really
I'm tethered. I'm off NBN. I'm on 4G
okay.
right
that's
now.
what changed it. Yeah, okay.
NBN sucks.
Awesome. Okay, well, mate, this has been an absolute sensation of a session, and it's definitely. I don't watch them all again, but I'm definitely going to be watching this one and deep diving into this. So
I don't think I've ever watched. I've not ever owned Joe. I've not even watched our own session. I
wouldn't watch
in my mind. I will eventually watch them, but I wanted to, while Joe roughs it up, thanks, Kent, for being a great supporter of us and kind of being just having a lot of fun with us along our journey as well. Like, I hope you stay in touch. Well, I'm sure you will stay in touch with us for a long time.
Yeah, thanks. I want you guys to actually ask your members to help you get to 10,000. You know,
well, how do we do that?
You're too humble to do that. You need to. I think you need to ask people in the group to say refer people so we can get to 10,000 together.
I'm a little afraid, Kent, because I didn't say this offline because I'm already trying to keep, because the more people we have, the more time it takes.
More admin.
Yeah, that's why it's growing quick enough as it is. Like, it's.
You're a victim of your own success. Yes, be less likable. That's the trick.
Yeah.
Yes, that is it.
Invite people though if you want to, but make sure they're good people, because otherwise I have to tick off a lot of them
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. A spruiker sent me a message the other day. He's like, "Why is my post deleted?" And I was like, "Because you're spruiking your crap." He's like, "No. All I was trying to do was give someone a great investment." I was like,
"That's the joint venture partners," and I'm like, "Well, isn't that kind of spruiking business?" I don't know. Like, if that's not, then what?
Mate.
No, help people. Don't sell people.
Yes, and that's what you're doing, mate. I appreciate it. Well, I feel like you've hyped me up here, Jeff. Let's just wrap this thing up. Kent, we're definitely getting you back on, mate. This was an absolute dynamite, and I hope we've educated a bit of people, some people, and I think we have, on the value of inventory and the value of supply and demand. And stop looking at mediums, start looking at the platform, and we can start getting
where do buyers agents go and check you out? Like, how do they get in touch with you? Through your website, probably? Contact us?
Yeah, if they do any suburb search, they'll see my name and phone number on the
share my screen real quick.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Yeah, on any suburb, just if they go there, they'll see my number there. If they go to Suburb Trends in the contact page, they'll find me there as well. There's a landing page devoted to buyers agents on the website.
You go. Excellent.
As well.
But be quick as well. I was looking, and Jack Henderson is in here. Arjun is in here. We've got people in you've got the buyers agents in Victoria. So if you're in an area, speed up your little booty.
Yeah, I was planning a hard launch, and I got inundated with quite a few referrals in the last 2 weeks, which was wonderful, which tested my onboarding capabilities. So I'm going to stay with the soft launch. Thank you very much.
Yeah, get a VA. That's what you need.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, we always like to sign it off with, have a great night, and let's go buy a property.
Let's go research property. Thanks, everybody.
See you guys. Thank you.